Yes, you can stitch with a twin needle or a double needle on the Husqvarna Viking Onyx 15 sewing machine. So what I'm going to do is show you how we're going to add another spool of thread and thread up for 2 threads. We're going to switch the needle out. Speaking of needles, there's lots of twin needles that you can use on this machine. I'm going to put a 2.0 twin needle on. That means that the distance between the 2 needles is 2 millimeters apart. For example, this one is a 3.0 that's a little wider. This one goes up to 4. Now, the one thing about this machine that I am going to guide you right away is you probably want to stick to a straight stitch or a triple straight stitch on here. I'm going to guide you to stay away from the extra stitches here because we do not have control over the width. And even when you're stitching with a zigzag, you find that the stitch is actually going to be a little bit more to the right of the foot when you stitch. So what's going to happen is because this machine normally is set up with 1 needle and now you have 2, that second needle is going to be rubbing against your foot. So I'm going to always say, I mean, you can, but what's probably going to happen is you're going to hit. Don't do it. You could try it by turning by hand and just making sure. If you have a very narrow twin needle, they do come in the smaller size of 1.6. But what I'm going to show you is fundamentals of threading for 2 needles, and then we're going to work only with a straight stitch, and then I'll do it once with the triple straight stitch, which is one of my favorite stitches on here. I also have right now the open toe foot on. That is an optional foot that is clear, available from Husqvarna Viking, one of my favorite feet. That's so you can kind of see how it looks when we go to stitch out. And we've been having some fun with buttonholes using the buttonhole foot letter C, and then also some variegated thread and your decorative stitches. So just note that you can definitely have some fun with this machine. Even though it only has 23 stitches, you have 23 stitches. There's a lot you can do with those. So I hope you'll check out all of our free video tutorials with that link below. In the description, it'll take you to the playlist and let you start from the beginning. Okay, first things first, let's go ahead and remove the needle that's currently in the machine. If you haven't taken it out lately or you got it really tight, remember this is your screwdriver. Go ahead and loosen it. My guide to you is when you do change needles, which you should be doing often, is just make sure that if you are using this as the tightener, and I'm going to just slide this up. I can probably usually do it with my fingers as a nice little tighten, but don't crank yourself down on this screw. Just a little tight, not over tightened. I know that's a hard thing to say, like how do you know if it's too tight? Just be gentle with it, because remember, you can do a lot of turning with this more than you can with your fingers. Now notice I still have 1 thread in the machine, and yes, we'll be able to put this thread in either the right or the left needle. So let's look up top. If you're looking to add a secondary spool, pull out your vertical spool pin. I even put the little felt pad at the bottom just so it doesn't go spinning off on me. And we're going to be able to add this thread right on top of what we have threaded so far. The only key or suggestion that I recommend is that as you get right here to that tension area, why don't you hold onto the thread at top, pull it nice and secure, maybe even floss it a little bit. Make sure it gets well seated down into that same groove. The 2 threads are kind of sharing that guide, so just make sure that one isn't partially in and then you have problems. Okay, so I'm going to thread up those 2 needles, and then I'll bring you in a little closer to what we're going to see. I forgot to mention, I was not using the needle threader. That's why I had to do it by the old-fashioned way, threading it through the eyes. Because your needle is no longer in the center, this doesn't line up with a twin needle. So you're on your own for threading those 2 needles. So I've got both my threads. I'm going to just kind of slide them to the back, just like I'd be pretending to do normal sewing. Remember, with these stitches, you can adjust the stitch length. Before I do anything, I usually take the time to just hand turn the first couple stitches. This also makes sure that when I put my needle in or up into the top part here, I also am double checking I got it as high as it should go. So if it felt like it went and you tightened it and you didn't get it all the way to the top, you're going to have some troubles right about now. So sometimes I like to just make sure if everything's looking good, sounding good, you're able to stitch just like normal, and you could even do curves. And since I have variegated thread and a solid thread here. We're going to have some fun coloring coming out. Take a look at that. We can have, oh yeah, so where do we use a twin needle? So you can use it both for top stitching. You can use it for pin tucks. I mean, even the package shows us right here in the bottom corner, pin tucks, decorative stitches if you have a little bit more fancier machine. But yes, with this machine, let's switch over to the triple straight stitch. That means I'm on the blue S1 setting. Ooh, this does move the needle to the side. Ah, that's right. Okay, I'm going to be very careful. This is what we're talking about. Okay, since I have a 2.0 twin needle on, I feel I'm going to be okay, but I am really close to the edge of the foot. So this is why I guide you to really only be using the straight stitches. And even now that I see it, that triple stitch is going to be a little bit close, but go ahead, use it with caution. Oh yeah, if you're going to turn a corner, bring your needles up. But look, it really produces a nice defined heavy stitch. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're picking stitches. I'd really stick to straight stitches. This is also the seam that you can use to duplicate the cover stitch hem that you see on a lot of your t-shirts, because it is going to have stretch and give. So even though this is not called a stretch stitch, it actually is a stretch stitch, and it's a lot of fun to be able to create that. Yes, it looks different on the back because your bobbin is just creating a zigzag on the back, but it would give you, nobody sees the back when you're wearing that t-shirt that has 2 rows of stitches. So I would advise stick with the straight stitch on this machine, and you can do lots with a twin needle, even just to create some fun decorative uses. You could also free motion quilt with a twin needle. I'll just throw that out there and let you ponder that. So check out our free motion quilting video. And yes, you could even free motion quilt with a twin needle. Check out all the videos in those links below in the description, where you can find the complete playlist of all the free video tutorials that we have done on this beautiful Husqvarna Viking Onyx 15 sewing machine.